Our father, Alfred Huggins, prior to his death in 1985, said very little about his wartime experience in the Greece campaign, but we knew it was significant to his life. His Greek campaign certificate, which was given to him by the government, the Greek government, was framed and was above his head in his last months. His Greek medal was proudly displayed with his other war medals. And the only story he shared with both Phillip and I as young boys was recorded by our mother. It indicated how precarious war in Greece was and how precarious it was for him to hang on to life in this campaign. But the final contribution was a photo album which moved between Phillip and our house regularly, and with good fortune and good fortune alone, it actually stayed the journey. It indicated, that photographic album, how precarious life was in the wartime. He said very little, but his photographs gave us a great deal in terms of this period of time. A visit to the shrine in combination with a trip to Crete made us realise we needed to find a person who was passionate about the bonds between Australians and Greeks during the Greek wartime campaign of 1941. Now, Jim Claven immediately confirmed his passion, and he provided the most valuable part, a custodial direction of Alfie's photographs. Today's launch is a signature, as we've heard, to Jim as both an historian and a fine writer. Finally, we wish to give thanks also to Steve Brax for being here tonight and participating in this launch. Steve and his wife Terry walked with us in El's footsteps in Hania, 42nd Street, Ceuta Bay, and across Crete through the Samaria Gorge. To both of you, our family is in deep gratitude and give thanks to the time you've been able to provide in this particular story of discovery for us. But us and our story really just gives us encouragement to keep finding further bonds between Greece and Australia.
I was really haunted and touched by that photo on the cover of the book. Dad came off a farm in northern Victoria, and a lot of our family would have liked to have been here tonight, but they're caught up in the floods, and so they can't be here. Some here are representing of many. And looking at that photo and imagining Dad as a young man, off a farm, taking that burial, helped, as did all Jim's research, as David has said, helped us to better appreciate what the impact of war was on him. After he died, we met people who knew him before he went to the war, and they spoke about someone we never knew. We never knew. Such was the effect of war on his personality, the trauma of war. And Jim's actually helped us to better understand our father through this book, and by putting some context around his photos. As David said, he didn't want to relive it, he didn't speak much about it, and he gave his best to making sure, like his generation, that we were all going to be able to grow up free and independent and in a society of flourishing democracy, the linkage to the great Greek philosophers and bearers of that tradition. David and I have both been to Greece a number of times subsequently, carrying forward that. David and Steve going to Crete. I've been to Mount Athos on pilgrimage to the Holy Mountain, pray the Jesus prayer. And I think as I think about tonight, it's really in the context of life, death and eternity. Although the war changed that, he kept a sort of dogged sense of humour that we see in that kind of photography. When he was dying, David and I were had a pilgrimage with him in the hospital in Geelong in his last days. I was already ordained then in the church, and he wasn't very he didn't really think much of that career tradition. I'd originally trained as an economist, and he thought there might have been a bit more money if I'd stayed with it. So a bit of a waste of his big efforts on education. But anyway, he was there, and he was very close to dying. And one time there we were on our pilgrimage, and he looked over to me. He had this kind of twinkle in his eye, and he said to me, pointing to my cross, "I'm going to know more about this than you, sir." So, you know, I think all of us that life, death and eternity, we remember them all and trust them to God's eternal care, and may light perpetual shine upon them. Christos Aneste.